Welcome back to The Daily Shift, the podcast where we merge neuroscience, emotional regulation, and biblical principles to transform your life in about 1% of your day. This is day 10 of 21 in the series called The Creative Blueprint. Our opening verse is from Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. When people talk about manifestation, they often focus on mindset, vision boards, and affirmations. But few understand that emotional regulation is what allows you to sustain and embody the reality you're creating. It's not just about feeling good. It's about being in control of your internal world so that the external changes can take root. Hi, if you're new to me, my name is Raquel, and I'm your GPS for success, guiding you to co-create with God the life you're designed to live. And here's a quick reminder. Our Manifestation Lab is open, offering a hands-on space to apply these principles with group coaching and support. And if you're not in here yet, consider this your invitation. Many think emotions are the starting point, but they're actually the response. Our thoughts activate our emotions, and our emotions influence our actions. At the core of it all is our internal story, the deep-seated beliefs we hold on about ourselves, God, and the world. If that story is filled with fear, doubt, and unresolved pain, no amount of positive thinking will override it. So today, we're talking about why emotional regulation is foundational for manifestation, how it impacts mental health, and why faith is not about ignoring problems, but facing them with wisdom and trust. I'll also share my personal story of falling into toxic positivity, how it wrecked my body, my mind, and my health, and what I did to rebuild from the inside out. Before we talk about emotional regulation, we need to get clear on what's actually running the show. It's just not emotions. It's the story you're telling yourself. Your mind is constantly interpreting the world based on past experiences, beliefs, and subconscious narratives. The interpretation creates thoughts, which in turn activates emotions. So for example, if your internal story is everything always works out for me, then when something unexpected happens, your first thought might be, this is just another setup for a breakthrough. That thought activates peace, confidence, and expectancy. But if your internal story is, things never go my way, the same unexpected situation might trigger thoughts like, here we go again, nothing ever works out. That thought activates frustration, discouragement, and anxiety. See the difference? It's not emotions influencing your thoughts. It's your thoughts being activated by your internal story. And then those thoughts trigger emotions. This is why emotional regulation starts with awareness, not just of your feelings, but of the thoughts and beliefs that are creating them. Ignoring your emotions doesn't make them disappear. Instead, they build up like a pressure on a dam, waiting for the moment to overflow. And I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I fell into toxic positivity, and I believed if I just ignored my pain, stayed positive, and focused on the good things, I could override any struggle. I refused to acknowledge stress, disappointment, and exhaustion. I told myself that anything negative was a lack of faith, but my body kept score. I lost a significant amount of my hair. My weight dropped drastically. The stress I ignored, it built up so much I developed diabetes. All because I refused to address what was actually happening inside of me. Faith is not denial. True faith faces reality with God, not by pretending challenges don't exist. Even Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane was honest about his emotions. My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Matthew 26:38. He didn't suppress his feelings. He processed them in the presence of God. That's the difference between spirit-led emotional regulation and toxic positivity. One allows you to process and move through emotions in a healthy way. The other suppresses them, leading to breakdown mentally, emotionally, and physically. A big part of emotional regulation is knowing when to set boundaries. Many believers misunderstand the commandment to love your neighbor as yourself in Mark 12:31. They focus on the love your neighbor part, but forgot that you can only love others to the extent that you love yourself. Loving yourself means protecting your peace, setting boundaries with people who drain you, taking time to rest and restore, recognizing when to say no. You are not called to overextend yourself to the point of burnout. Emotional regulation means knowing when to step back so you can show up as the best version of yourself. From a brain science perspective, emotional regulation is the result of balancing two key areas. Firstly, the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of logical thinking and decision making. This is the part that is responsible for reasoning and self-control. When you regulate emotions, you're activating this part of your brain, allowing you to respond instead of reacting. Your amygdala, which is in charge of emotional processing or the fight or flight response. When you're overwhelmed by stress, fear, or frustration, the amygdala takes over. This triggers the fight or flight mode, making it hard to think clearly or stay grounded. By practicing emotional regulation, you calm the amygdala and activate the prefrontal cortex. This allows you to think clearly, and thinking is your gift. It then allows you to choose better actions and stay aligned with your desired reality. In biblical terms, this is the process of renewing your mind. Romans 12:2. Science and scripture both show us that when we shift our thoughts, we shift our emotions, and when we shift our emotions, we shift our outcomes. Here are some practical steps to regulate your emotions. Firstly, pause and identify the thought behind the emotion. Before reacting, take a deep breath and ask, what thought activated this feeling? For example, if you feel anxious about money, ask yourself, what am I thinking that is making me feel this way? And sometimes you don't know where that thought came from. It feels like it came out of nowhere and it's really strong. What I have found with myself and my clients as I've been asking questions is that it may not be something that you're thinking about right now, but it could have been something that you were thinking about, watching, hearing about up to like 20 minutes ago. So if you feel like these thoughts are coming out of nowhere, then you go to the second one, challenge the thought. Is the thought true? Or is it just an old story playing out? Is this thought coming from something I was watching, hearing, seeing on my feed? And then you replace it with the biblical truth. In this case would be, if you're thinking about money, my God will supply all my needs. Philippians 4:19. Next, you can use deep breathing and gratitude. Slow breathing activates the nervous system that calms the stress. That's why deep breathing is so good. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to abundance. Next, set boundaries without guilt. Say no when necessary. Create the space for rest. Create the space for prayer. Create the space for your personal time. And lastly, process your emotions in prayer. Be honest with God about how you feel. Surrender your emotions, but don't suppress them. When I finally allowed myself to feel, to process, and to set boundaries, everything changed. My body started to heal, my mind became clear, and my faith deepened. And I realized that manifestation is not about forcing emotions to be positive. It's about shifting the thoughts and internal stories that create your emotions. When you get your internal world in alignment, your external world follows. It is not a matter of if, it's when. Faith and emotional regulation go hand in hand. You can't manifest the life God has for you if you're constantly reacting to life rather than responding from a place of peace and wisdom. You have the power to regulate your emotions, not by forcing positivity, but by changing the thoughts and internal stories that create them. Let's continue this conversation tomorrow as we go even deeper into emotional mastery and how to practically apply it in daily life. Here are some actionable steps for today. 1. Identify an emotion you've been struggling with. What thought is behind it? 2. Find a Bible verse that challenges that thought and meditate on it. Now, meditation is in many different forms. It means to imagine, to think about, to ponder on. Those are some of the definitions of meditation, according to Joshua 1:8. And lastly, set just once, very small boundary today that protects your emotional peace. Let's keep moving forward. Your breakthrough, it's already in motion. Until next time, which will be very, very soon, may God's richest and best be yours. Bye for now.